No, I haven't seen anything. Supposed to be live streaming and recording it, but
Probably the same address as always, right?
yeah, all I see is one other person's.
I should say that again I was not unmuted on Zoom. Shabbat Shalom on Zoom.
Shabbat Shalom,
I am
Rabbi.
getting ready to mute everybody. All right. All right, it's so good to see everybody here. It's nice to be together in these times, especially when we are able to celebrate something so exciting as a Banot Mitzvah, as a celebration of two young ladies who've put in a lot of work and study in order to help lead us tonight and then to join us tomorrow evening in Torah reading and in service as you each become Bat Mitzvah. I'm also happy to see everybody else who is here in the sanctuary and everyone who is on Zoom. I just wanted to go over a couple of things as trying to get everything straight. There we go. So as what we are doing is a little bit different than normal still. We are going to have two ways of following along in our service this evening. The first, as you can see, will be from the slideshow on our projector. And if you're on Zoom, you should be able to see the slideshow. And these are the prayers that we'll be joining together in saying for our service. If you would like one of our prayer books, you can find they're kind of scattered around, but there are some blue ones, the blue books right here, are prayer books that we like to use for prayer books. There's some scattered around, some under your pews, or behind your seats. So I'll be announcing page numbers as we go to help follow along in the prayer book. For those of you who have the skinnier version of the prayer book, there are two sets of page numbers. We're going to be looking at the blue bracketed page numbers as opposed to the unbracketed page numbers. Otherwise, if you are following along on the screen, again, everything will be there for you. I also want to say, because acknowledging that we do have people joining virtually and people who have different abilities, that when I invite people to please rise or be seated throughout the service, that I am acknowledging rising in body or in spirit as we are able to. So I hope that our time together is a time that leads us to a sense of Shabbat, of peacefulness and rest, and that we are able to really find that sense of restfulness here together. As we join together, I also want to invite you, as you're comfortable, to read, to sing, to participate as fully as you want throughout the service. Our custom here is to do all portions of the service together. So as you're comfortable, please read along with me and with the girls as they're leading. So we're going to begin on page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to help work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We'll continue singing on page 128, words from the book of Psalms, Hine matov u'manaim, shevet achim gam yachad, how good it is for all of us to be together. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה, הנה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. אוי 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 שבר אחים גם יחד. שבר אחים אוי אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבר אחים גם יחד. הנה, הנה, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. אוי 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 שבר אחים גם יחד. שבר אחים אוי אחים גם יחד. We'll continue on page 138 as we welcome Shabbat with the poem from the Kabbalists, welcoming Shabbat like a bride or a queen. If you're in your prayer books, page 138, we'll join together in verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. If you're following on the screen, we'll be doing the verses that are there. And as we reach the 9th verse, I'll invite everyone to please rise as we face the entryway to welcome Shabbat like a bride. Ya la 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 dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad. Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, l'shemo tiferet b'litzilah. Ya elai, ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mikol ha'berapa meroz mikedem Ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, Shiva Adonai, alayis nigla. Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. כולם. בואי חלב, בואי חלב, יא אליי אליי, יא לה 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 לך דודי, יא לה 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 לקראת חלב, יא לה 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 בני שבת, בני שבת נקבלה. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 142 as we join together in welcoming the Shabbat angels of peace, the ministering angels. We welcome them into our space, into our life, into our hearts, hopefully that they bring with them the sense of Shabbat peace that we're all looking for. Page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bo'echem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Seichem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I would like to invite Danielle and Alora to join me on the bima as we are about to sing from a poem which comes from the book of Proverbs, from Mishlei, from chapter 31, which is most often called the woman of valor, Eshet Chayil, one of the symbols of Shabbat is thinking about the people of Israel and Shabbat as being in a loving relationship with each other. One of the metaphors that our tradition has taught us is that Shabbat keeps, as much as the Jewish people are responsible for keeping Shabbat, that Shabbat is responsible for keeping us and sustaining us in our time, especially in times like this where they're a little bit challenging. And so Eshet Chayil is a song about what it means to be or one ideal of what it means to be a virtuous partner in the context of Shabbat, but also because these two young ladies are becoming women in Jewish tradition, it contains a lot of what it means to be a person of high integrity and values. And so they are going to sing it for us this evening. And I'm going to do my best to follow along.
Eshet Chayil mi yimtza v'rachoik mimni mikra patach ba'alev ba'ela v'shalom v'shalom lo yechzar Eshet Chayil mi yimtza V'rachoik mimni mikra
So we're going to invite your parents, Green and Isaac, to join you as you light the Shabbat candles. That's one of the problems of these things.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר Shabbat. Amen.
Thank you. So you can come. And we'll continue as we transition into this Shema and her blessings on page 144. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'byomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael bagala ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבא מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, יתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקדושה בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמה, באמרו amen. We'll rise for our call to prayer as we turn to page 146. Please be seated. Continue on page 149 at the top. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. On the bottom of page 151, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. And we'll turn to page 152 and 153 for Shema as we rise together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Please be seated. I'm going to go get my power cord. This is why, or wait, my power cord is plugged in. Why is it not? This is why tradition says you're not supposed to use electronics on Shabbat. Because you're going to give your rabbi a panic attack. We are going to continue on page 154 with B'Ahavta as Danielle and Laura lead us.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך, בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Continue on page 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. We'll continue in our prayer books on page 158 as we join together in singing our prayer for redemption, Mi Chamocha. Ya la 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 ya la la תחרה ובניך לוקי הים לפני משה ומרים זה אלינו ואמרו זה אלינו ואמרו אדוני לא לעולם ועד אדוני לא לעולם ועד יא לי 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 יא לי לי יא לי 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 יא לי 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 יא לי לי יא לי לי יא לי לי. And we'll continue on the top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We'll join together in the words of Hashkivenu, that God's sheltering presence will be with us this evening and every evening. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. We'll continue now on page 164 with our tefillah. I'll invite everyone to please rise, and we'll continue in even numbered pages. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, Umevi gula livnei b'neihem, lema'an shemo be'ahava. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham be'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, mechaye hakol atah rav lehoshia, mechalkel chaim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, tzomech noflim verofech olim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach, melech memit, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. On the top of page 171, days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Blessed is the Eternal One, the Holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Please be seated. On the top of page 173, may these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. And on the top of page 177, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. We'll join together in a prayer for peace, Shalom Rav, on page 178. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha chasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha chasim leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata Lecho hashalom, shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, chasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, chasim leolam. V'tov be'einecha levarech et samcha Yisrael, b'chol eit u'b'chol shah, v'shlomecha. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, chasim leolam. Shalom rav al Yisrael amcha, chasim leolam. Chasim leolam, chasim leolam. we'll continue with a moment for our own quiet thoughts and prayers. Yehiyu leratzon imrei fi behegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai Turi Begoali Yehiyu leratzon imrei fi Behegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri Begoali We devote the next few moments of our service to hold those who are in need of a prayer of healing, whether it's a healing of body, of mind, or of spirit. We keep them in our hearts as we are prepared to say Misha Beirach. If there are those of you who are joining on Zoom and would like to type their names in the chat, I'll read them in a moment. And as I look your way in the sanctuary, if you have a name of a loved one or a friend who you would like to share so we can hold them in our prayer for healing, please feel free to share their name as I look your way. Esther Greenwald, Lauren Trichek, Ursula Hartunian, Daddy Haynes, Peter Baum, Jasmine Clapperich, Tim and Larry Williams, Brenda Wood, Kay DeYoung, Anita Freilich, Ward Becker, Don Leff, Steve Wood, Roy Katz, Gail Rose Carmack. And for all of our loved ones we hold in our hearts who are in need of a prayer of healing, we say, Baruch atah Adonai rofeh hacholim. Blessed is God who brings healing to those who are in need of healing. We'll join together on page 371 as we sing Misha Beirach. Misha Beirach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Here we go. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'll give you an image. When I was in high school, I was a wrestler. I wrestled for Granby High School, which was famous for its wrestling team. And one of the, now that I look back of it, kind of silly things that we did to train as a wrestler was we joined in partners, and one of us would stand like this. If you have ever seen the Leonardo da Vinci Vitruvian Man, we stood like that, or one person in the partnership did that, and the other person would do their best to weave over and under the person's arms, climbing over their arms and then under their arms. And their goal was to not touch the ground while they did this. And that was one of the ways that we, as wrestlers, improved our strength. It just so happens that there is a very similar story in the Talmud that describes a kind of strength gaining process, which we know this story from rabbinic literature, but we also know it from other context. There's most people believe that the story that rabbinic literature is referencing is a person called Milo the Cretan, who was an Olympic champion in the first series of Olympic Games. He won 5, I think, Olympic wrestling tournaments. In any case, he was known for building his strength by carrying a cow. So when a cow would be birthed, he would take the calf and carry it on his shoulders. And every day as the cow grew, he was able to maintain carrying the cow on his shoulders for several hours a day. And even as the cow got to be heavier and heavier, he was able to maintain his strength because it was something that happened gradually over a period of time. And why am I telling you that? Because in a way, it's related to a process that we all can participate in, related to a particular series of commentaries related to the beginning of this week's Torah portion, which is Parshat Ki Tetzei. This week's Torah portion begins with an interesting statement. It says, when you go out against your enemies in war. It doesn't say if, it says when. So the rabbis have a lot of interesting questions about that, but there are many classical works of rabbinic literature that deal with this passage metaphorically. But one interpretation that I think makes a lot of sense, especially as we are now in the Hebrew month of Elul, rabbinic tradition tells us that in the month of Elul is actually when we're supposed to start the process of teshuvah, of inward thinking and processing and trying to improve ourselves as Jews and as humans. That's was supposed to begin actually 13 days ago. but I was on vacation last week, so I couldn't give the sermon. When you go out to war against your enemies, uses an interesting expression. So ki teitzei is teitzei is actually the same root word as the root Yitziat Mitzrayim. So when we say that we are going out from the land of Egypt, and one of the interesting ideas linked to this word is that the word yatzah, to go out, is often tied to a leaving of something and then striving to move towards something better. So the idea that we have this phrase opening this week's Torah portion, saying that when we go out to war, the rabbis, especially of the Hasidic tradition, looked at this and said, that's weird. War is not a redemptive action. And so what are we supposed to do with this? So that's strange expression number one. There is a second strange expression also in this sentence. In the same phrase, we read al oivecha, which in Hebrew means on or above your enemies. So it's not that we're going against our enemies, or at least not in a literal sense, but we are going out and we're going to go over them. Or so we have to ask what we're supposed to do with that as well. So the classical Hasidic commentators, again, they look at this and they say, this kind of going out to battle is not a battle that implies any sort of physical violence. That the battle that we are going out to, the path of redemption that we are taking when we say ki teitzei, is an inward struggle. It is a way of acknowledging that we all have something about who we are that we can do better. And the way that we have to kind of think about that, because as human beings, we are inclined often to think about ourselves, or we often give ourselves the benefit of the doubt in situations where we have done something wrong. I was listening to a podcast earlier this week, which talked about how when we see other people cutting you off in the street, or other people who kind of race to get in front of you in line in the grocery store, we think of them as being no good for nothing people. They're just out only for themselves. But when we do the exact same thing, sociologists and psychologists tell us that we are willing to forgive ourselves much more quickly than we're able to forgive another person who did exactly the same thing. Part of what it means to build this kind of gradual strength, especially when it refers to overcoming our own inclination, as it refers to bettering ourselves and subduing our inclination to think of ourselves as being better than others just because we think our intentions are pure, means to have a focused effort on trying to make sure that we think about ourselves and challenge ourselves to be better. There is an organizational psychologist, many of you may have heard of him, his name is Dr. Adam Grant, who just wrote a really interesting book. And this is probably going to be a part of my high holiday sermon, but since a lot of you are not going to be here, I can tell you this now. One of the things that he talks about is how the only way that we can get better as human beings is if we look back and have the ability to know that we can change and acknowledge that the changes that we make are positive. As human beings, we often think of change, especially change within ourselves, as being negative. That we like to think of ourselves as living with a certain kind of integrity and authenticity, and that we know who we are. But that is not always the case. It's not always the case that we really have a good understanding of who we are. We can always strive to dive a little bit deeper, but the best way to do that, to build that sense of spiritual strength and understanding of self, is to do it a little bit at a time. Just like Milo the Cretan was able to build his strength enough to carry a cow, a full-sized cow, he wasn't able to do it from the very beginning. He had to do it incrementally with small steps and day by day focusing his attention in order to do that. I hope that as this season of reflection is growing closer and closer, that we are all inspired to take that kind of sense of deep spiritual inward look, and that we're able to start now, and that we don't give up at the end of Yom Kippur, that we are able to continue that process in order to always strive to be the best versions of ourselves. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to, now that I've reshared the screen with everyone, we're going to rise together, turning to page 586 for Aleinu. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, v'teit gedula liyotzeh bereshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'goraleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtahavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamalchim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad. Ushemo, Ushemo echad. We devote the next few moments of our service to honor the memories of those we have loved and lost. We hold in our hearts at this time those for whom this Shabbat and this week were a yahrzeit or an anniversary of their death. David S. Friedman, Belle Gervitzman, Murray A. Marlowe, Joseph Leo Diamondstein, Isidore Horowitz, Molly Lasky, Maurice M. Mazur, Ellie Posner, Edwin Bihari, Carol Betty Lender, Kathy Plotkin, Max Spear, Zena Baum, Joseph M. Sussman, Larry Kessler, Maurice Klein, Lieutenant Mort Scheer, Joseph Bernard Tabachman, Ruth Tannenbaum, and Beverly Kaplan. And if there are loved ones you're holding at this time in your heart that you'd like to share their name before we recite Mourner's Kaddish, and you're on Zoom, please feel free to type their name in the chat and I'll read them in a moment. And if there's someone you're thinking of and you'd like to share their name in the sanctuary as I look your way, please do. For all of our loved ones who came before us, we say, Zichronam livracha, may their memories be an eternal blessing. We will rise together on page 598 as we recite Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chai echon u'b'yom echon u'b'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'b'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mivarach le'alam u'omei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yithalal shmei dekedusha brichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates peace in the heavens on high bring peace to us here on earth, to all Israel and all people of the world. And may God send comfort to all those who are mourning. Together we say, Amen. Please be seated. I have one announcement for the moment, and that is our Sunday school is going to start, not this coming Sunday, but the following Sunday, August 29th. So if you know any of our congregational family members with kids who should be registered for religious school, now is the time to give them a little nudge as we are about to start our school year. If you have any questions about registration or have trouble logging into the website, you can contact Kim, who's our religious school director, and you can see her email here. Also, as we are trying to make sure that everyone stays safe in religious school, we're going to be doing our best to do most religious school classes outside as much as we can. And we have figured out that the best way to do that is by using tailgate tents to try and make sure that we can make sure that we're not affected as often by the weather. So if I know that one of the things that if you know of someone who has a tailgating tent that they would be willing to lend to us, at least for the beginning of the religious school year, so that we can keep everybody as outside as often as possible for religious school, let me know, or let our religious school director, Kim, know, and that would be amazing. We are going to say Kiddush and blessing for our children. And then for those of you at home who might have challah, we can say motzi. And I know that I'm going to go home and eat dinner after this. So we're going to join together in these blessings for Shabbat and then conclude our service. So, and again on Zoom, if you have something to say Kiddush over as well, please feel free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. And whether you are sitting next to your children or if you're thinking about your children in your hearts, we say this blessing on Shabbat to always feel that close connection with our kids. So we say, Yisimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim v'chi Menashe. May you be blessed like Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Menashe. Yisimech Elohim kesara Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May you be blessed like the mothers of our people, like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. We wish for all of our children to feel the blessings of being proud of who they are and of always striving to be the best version of themselves with these words of blessing from the Torah. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine on you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's presence always feel close to you, and may you always be blessed with the most important gifts of wholeness and peace. We say together, Amen. Kim saying thank you if you have a tent. And You don't have a challah in the room, but Pat, do you have your challah you can hold up to show everybody? There you go. Pat's got her challah. I'm going to make Pat a little bit bigger so you can see. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'te'avon, Pat. And we are going to join together in a singing Oseh Shalom, a prayer for peace as we conclude our service. Oseh Shalom, Bimroma, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'achol Yisrael, Ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. Shabbat Shalom. May we all have a Sabbath of rest and peace and celebration. And Mazel Tov to Danielle and Alora. And we will continue our celebration with you tomorrow. Shabbat Shalom. And I will unmute everybody on Zoom.